You heard it, not a moment, but a movement. 8:20 right now. People Station V103 launching the campaign Black Votes Matter for this state. Helen Butler, director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda, joins us now when I talk about just a walking Google University.
Absolutely.
About voting. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad to have you on.
Welcome.
I'm glad to be here with you all, especially in launching Black Votes Matter.
Yes.
Let's just get right into it.
Yes.
Talk about something we were talking about off the air about people who have the absentee ballots and using those.
Well, absentee ballots are a great way if you don't want to get off from work, if you don't feel like standing in line, if you think it's too cumbersome, you can do it from the comfort of your home. Just fill it out, mail it back in, and that's all it takes. You can do it 45 days prior to the election. They'll mail you a ballot. You do fill it out and turn it back in. It's great. And again, you just do it from the comfort of your house. You don't have to leave home. You know, you just do it right there.
So that helps avoid that whole thing about you not having the ID?
No ID required. All of that is a part of absentee voting. Again, you don't have the lines. You don't have to have the traffic problems, whatever that might be to get to the polls. You can do it from the comfort of your house.
And Helen, mainstream America's been doing this for years and years and years. Why don't we see more people of color using the absentee ballots?
Well, it used to be a case where absentee ballots, they would substitute those and didn't trust people. Dead people were voting when we didn't have means to monitor it. But these days, you can go back and audit that. That's the only process that will allow us to really audit the election process, because the voting machines are going to give you a tabulation.
Right.
It's not going to change. You can't audit each individual count. So with an absentee ballot, you can physically see it, touch it, and see what the voter's intent was.
So what do people need to do to get it? What do they have to do?
All they have to do is fill out an application. They don't have to fill out an application. They can actually write a letter, email saying, I want an absentee ballot mailed to my home address. This is my name, my address. This is where it should be mailed to, and send it in to their local boards of election, and they will send them an absentee ballot.
All right. Let's talk about another thing that we hear a lot. If you are a felon, you can't vote. That's it. You lose your right to vote forever. True or not true?
Not true. Not true. Felons can vote if they've served their time, paid their fines, no longer on parole or probation. They can automatically register to vote. This is for Georgia only. I want to say that.
Okay.
Because in other states, it may be different. But in Georgia, that's the requirement.
Wow.
Okay, so in case people missed it, if you know somebody that has been told, because that is another way to keep you from going to the ballot box.
Yes.
You know, you're a felon, you lost your right to vote forever.
Exactly. Because we've been thinking that for a very long time.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that. So,
Right.
again, tell them the truth, Helen.
The truth is, you can register to vote by if you've served your time, paid your fines, no longer on parole or probation. You can automatically get one of those voter registration forms, fill it out, and send it in.
What about our college students? Let's just say they registered to vote here in Georgia. They went off to college somewhere else. How does that work?
If they went off to college somewhere else and they registered here in Georgia and don't want to register where they are in college, they get an absentee ballot. They can do that process as well. They just send in their information requesting for an absentee ballot. It gets mailed to them. They fill it out. They mail it back in. Simple process.
8:24 right now. Helen Butler joins us, the director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda, as we launch our Black Votes Matter campaign. Helen, if we were to really shift this whole thing and got some people of color registered, how many people of color are unregistered right now in Georgia?
Well, I can tell you, it depends on which number you use, but based on the census number, there are approximately 500,000 African Americans who are unregistered to vote.
That could vote.
That could vote.
Wow.
And more importantly than that, if you looked at the 2008 election and the 2012 election, 400,000 black people were registered but didn't make that final process to go to the polls. So that's 1 million people.
So they went out, they registered to vote, but on election day, they didn't go.
Exactly.
But now they have the option of using the absentee ballot, so they can't. For a lot of people say, well, I can't get off work.
Well, there are several options. The absentee, of course, is the best option. The next best option is voting early, because you can go in 21 days prior to the election. Your local boards of election have various locations. Some counties only have one, but like Fulton County had 20-some early voting locations, DeKalb, a similar kind of amount. So you can go to an early voting location and you can vote there as well. And it may not necessarily be near your house. It may be near your job where you can go. So you just have to call and find out where that is, or go online and look at your My Voter page, and that will tell you most of the information that you'll need to know so you can go vote early. So those are the two options. You really vote absentee, or you can vote in person early, or you can vote on election day. There are three options to voting in Georgia.
741 WVE at The Real RC, at Wanda Smith _ATL on Twitter, at V13 Atlanta. The hashtag is Black Votes Matter, hashtag BVM. If you have a question, call us up right now. Helen's going to hang around for a minute, including coming up, somebody wants to know, can you vote if you're homeless?
Oh, yes.
We'll tell you how. Coming up in just a second, all right? The director of the Georgia Coalition of the People's Agenda, Helen Butler. We're talking about the movement, not the moment. Black Votes Matter. When we went to break, Helen, I asked you a question that somebody wanted to know on the phone lines at 741 WVE. Can a homeless person vote?
Yes, they can, as long as they have an address where they physically receive mail. It has to be a physical address, not a post office box, because the physical address determines who your representatives are.
Okay.
So they can use the address of a shelter if the shelter allows them to get their information there.
Right.
They can use their relative's address as a means of getting their information. So homeless people can register to vote. We register them. We went down to, we do it at Wheat Street Baptist Church. We've been doing it over at St. Peter Missionary Baptist Church with their homeless program. So there are places that you can do that.
All right. Let's go out to the phone lines. We have a representative who wants to talk this morning and share some information and say, yeah, what we're saying is true. Hello.
Hey, Ryan, this is State Representative Billy Mitchell calling just to commend yourself and Wanda, the morning crew, and Helen Butler for getting such valuable information out there. I know you're not promoting any particular political party, but this is Billy Mitchell stating, I hear almost ad nauseum how Georgia is a red state. The present leadership of this state won by an average of 244,000 votes. And as Helen so eloquently said it, we have 400,000 people, black folk, who are registered, who did not vote, another 500,000 who are eligible, who are not even registered. So the help we need is at the end of our own hands here. And I just want to thank you again.
840 right now, 840. Let's go to Maria from Atlanta on line 1. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning. Helen, can you talk about the time period? I know you said for early voting, I know you said 21 days before the election, but to also include, doesn't that include some Saturdays as well?
There is a mandatory Saturday voting, yes. It does include a mandatory Saturday. And some counties have also been doing Sunday voting as well. It's optional for the counties to do Sunday voting, but it's a mandatory Saturday voting. Early voting begins October 17th, so we want you to get ready for that. The last day for voter registration is October the 11th. So, you can get registered on October the 11th, and then you can start voting early October the 17th. So those are the dates that we want you to be ready for voting.
All right, we got Cammie in Stone Mountain with a call this morning. Good morning, Cammie.
Hi, my situation is that I know someone that they got in trouble like a year ago. They're not actually labeled as a felon because they're in a first-time offenders program. They're still on probation, but they're not legally noted anywhere as a felony, are they able to vote right now?
If they're not a convicted felon, they can actually register and vote. It only applies to people that have been convicted of a felony.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Give us some more information, some things that maybe people don't know, Helen, that they should be aware of.
Well, I think I've told them everything there is. You can request an absentee ballot, by the way, 180 days prior to any election cycle. So 6 months prior to the election, you can get prepared and ready to vote. They'll send it to you at the beginning of the 45-day period because they can't send it before that time. But you can request your ballot as early as 6 months prior to an election cycle. You know,
and in our meeting, that when you came to our staff meeting the other day, we were talking about this, that a lot of times for people who are first-time voters, they think they're just going to walk in there and it's just going to say Hillary Clinton v. Donald Trump, and that's going to be it. But there's so many other things in there and so many local, it might be some tax stuff in there, it might be some improvement stuff in there. So how do they get versed on what's going on in their own community?
Well, they should, as I say, the Secretary of State has what we call My Voter Page.
Right.
It has everything you need to know about yourself. It has your precinct location. It has where that location is. It has who your district people are, your representatives are. You click on the little link in there and you actually see their pictures or their page, so you get to know who they are. If you vote early, if you want an absentee ballot, you can do it through there. You can also find out, if I voted a provisional ballot, as we do sometimes when we don't have the right information when we go vote, and we're required to know how did my vote count. You go to My Voter Page and click on provisional status. You can even say if you vote absentee, you can see your absentee ballot status, if they received it, when they received it, and did it count.
Now, let's talk about the address change quickly, because I know some people move from one place to the other and they may not remember to change the address. So can you explain that? Like if you move from one address or one, if you leave from Gwinnett and you move to Atlanta, how does that work?
Well, if you move from one county to the other, you really should do an address change. But if you haven't, you're allowed to go back to the precinct where you are registered to vote, or do the absentee, which alleviates that as well. But make sure that you update your information when you go in to vote. You update that location, because you really want to be voting for the people that you're really entitled to be voting for. But you can go back to your previous location. But if you move to another state, you can't vote unless you change for out of state.
Will I get in trouble if I tell everybody who to vote for?
I'm just kidding. You won't. I would, but you won't.
We have some more people calling in because their lines are lighting up. They have questions, and we can go to line one. Andrea from Lawrenceville have a question. Go right ahead, Andrea.
Hey, good morning. I was calling. I have relatives that are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they make complaints about things that go on in the community with their children's schools or whatnot. I think a lot of the issue is religion. People of color are not registering to vote because of their religions, what they believe in. Jehovah's Witnesses do not believe in partaking in registering to vote or voting. They just feel like they will let God handle what's going on in the world, and if it's the time to wrap it up, it's time to wrap it up. So what do we do about those people that have religious beliefs that don't feel like they should vote or be a part of that? Because that's what I struggle with my family members.
Wow.
Well, that's left up to the individual. I can't tell you what your religion tells you to do, but you can tell them that everything that happens to them, and God said, render unto Caesar that what is Caesar, so this is part of Caesar, I guess you would say. So they need to participate because everything impacts them. Like you said, on the ballot is a constitutional amendment about schools, governor being able to take over schools.
That's right.
So that will impact their children and future generations. There's taxes. There's a judicial question, qualifications question that will be on the ballot. There are a lot of things that impact them that they should get involved because, this will determine their future, what's involved in their community. The number of people that get represented in the census and all those kinds of things are important to us because it means money to our neighborhoods.
And that's what we were talking about with the Somebody's Got to Say Something this morning was that, we just hope, and I hope that we don't live to regret this, that in this election, because of that idea that your vote isn't going to count or, it's not going to matter and, it's rigged and all these other things. Like, it's too much of a serious issue, the things that are going to happen if we do not get into that voting booth.
We got to see that when we voted for President Barack Obama. We got to see the power that we have. Like, that feeling I'll never forget.
Right.
You're so right. We have to get out and get it done. You cannot sit back and relax and say, I might do it, I might not. You have to really get out and do it.
Right. And why are people putting barriers in place for you to vote, like photo ID, like changing your polling locations, all of that?
Right.
It's because it takes away your power.
Right.
So when you don't vote, you advocate giving your power to someone else. And I don't want to give my power away.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you look at all the things that was done like 51 years ago between the grandfather clause and the poll tax and the literacy test, all these things that were put in place to keep black people from voting, and now that we have the right to vote, we don't vote?
Yes, and we're letting them put those same kind of barriers back in place.
Right. So before we go to break, for those of you who have a smartphone, we do everything on these phones. Helen has a way to say, man, if I try to write something, tell them about that app.
The app is Georgia Votes, and there you can get all the information you need. Sample
And it's
ballot is free. It's definitely free, but it has everything you'll need. You can even register online using that app. One caution is if you register online, you have to have a Georgia driver's license or a Georgia ID in order to register online for it to go through. You can register online, print it out if you don't have those IDs, but you can do anything on that particular app that you need to.
And I'm going to, I just took a screenshot of this, and I'm going to send it out on my Twitter and on the V Twitter account as well. When you go to the app, the first page, the home page, it says Georgia Secretary of State Brian Kemp. It says all these little drop-down buttons that you can click on. Am I registered to vote? You want to check right there. My voter information. You want to check key election dates. Where do I vote? Business search. One-click annual registration. Everything is on this page from your smartphone, so you really don't have an excuse now.
Exactly.
Helen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great information. All right. Hashtag Black Votes Matter. Again, the app is available right now, and it's free.